All right, let's talk about a guy who basically hacked music. We're talking about a rebel who looked at the rulebook, tore it up, and remixed everything to create a sound that was completely new and completely American.
I bet you know this sound. It's that long, sliding, kind of wailing clarinet that just screams big city waking up. You've definitely heard it in a movie or a cartoon somewhere. It's one of the most famous musical intros of all time.
So what even is that? Well, it's the explosive opening to a masterpiece called Rhapsody in Blue. And the person who wrote it? Not some stuffy old-school composer. Nope, he was a rebellious kid from Brooklyn who dropped out of school and just kinda accidentally became a genius. Let's get into it.
So, our story doesn't start in some fancy music school. It starts on the streets of New York City. And trust me, this is not one of those stories about a prodigy who was destined for greatness. It's way cooler than that.
So check this out. George Gershwin was the kind of kid who'd rather be playing games in the street than sitting in a classroom. Music wasn't even on his radar until his parents bought a piano for his older brother, Ira. But surprise, it was George who couldn't stay away from it. He got so obsessed that by 15, he dropped out of school to work in the music business. And just 6 years later, he was a global star. Talk about a serious glow-up.
So, this job he took, a song plugger, what even is that? Okay, imagine your job is to make a new song go viral. That's it. You're like a human TikTok algorithm from the 1920s. You sit at a piano all day, playing a tune over and over, trying to convince famous singers to perform it. It taught him exactly what makes a song catchy.
And his career didn't exactly start with a bang. I mean, look at this. His very first published song earned him a grand total of $5. 5. But then came Swanee. He literally wrote the tune on a bus ride. A superstar singer at the time named Al Jolson heard it, and boom, it sold millions of copies. Suddenly, at 21 years old, Gershwin was rich and famous.
But here's the thing. George could have just kept writing catchy pop songs and been set for life, but he had a much bigger, much crazier idea. He wanted to create the ultimate musical remix, a sound that no one had ever heard before.
What he came up with was a whole new genre we now call symphonic jazz. The name might sound a little fancy, but the idea was simple and totally revolutionary. Take two things that were seen as complete opposites, serious classical music and fun American jazz, and just smash them together. It was like a wild science experiment with sound.
See, you gotta understand that back then, the music world had these really strict, invisible walls. On one side, you had your serious classical music, very formal, very structured. And on the other side, you had popular music like jazz. It was rhythmic, it was energetic, it was from the streets. And those two worlds, they were never, ever supposed to mix. Gershwin basically walked in and knocked that wall right down. And let me tell you, the old school composers and critics, the gatekeepers of music, they thought he was crazy. They said he was breaking all the rules, and he was. But he had a vision. He wanted his music to sound the way America felt, a little chaotic, super energetic, and like a giant melting pot of different cultures all jammed together. And that brings us to his main quest, creating his masterpiece, Rhapsody in Blue. And the story behind it is pure drama. He was literally racing against time.
You have to hear this. So a famous band leader asks him for a new piece for a huge concert. George, being busy, completely forgets about it, just gone from his mind. Then one morning he's reading the newspaper and sees an announcement for his own new piece. He had just a few weeks to write it from nothing. So in a panic, he starts composing on a train, using the clickety-clack of the tracks for rhythm. He barely got it done in time. It's an insane story.
And don't just take my word for it. Gershwin himself explained what he was trying to do. He called the piece a musical kaleidoscope of America. He wasn't just writing notes on a page. He was trying to capture the sound of a whole nation.
So let's circle back to that iconic clarinet part from the beginning. The craziest part of this whole story, it was never actually supposed to be in the piece. It was basically a joke that made history.
Okay, here's what happened. The original sheet music just had the clarinet playing a simple, kind of boring scale. But during one rehearsal, the clarinet player decided to goof around and played it as a long, sliding, wailing sound instead. He was just being funny, but Gershwin heard it, and instead of getting mad, he absolutely loved that rebellious energy. He told him, "Do that, keep it in." And just like that, a joke became one of the most famous moments in music.
So, 100 years later, why are we still talking about this guy? Because after he finished his main quest with Rhapsody in Blue, Gershwin basically unlocked New Game Plus and went on to level up American music forever.
I mean, his impact was huge. He proved that American styles like jazz and blues weren't just fun, they were serious art. He and his brother Ira became this legendary songwriting duo. He wrote a revolutionary opera, Porgy and Bess, with an all-black cast, which was a massive deal at the time. Oh, and he also went to Hollywood and wrote iconic movie scores. The man just never stopped creating.
And he did all of this before he tragically died from a brain tumor at just 38 years old. 38! It's honestly staggering to think about what else he could have created. He packed more innovation into that short life than most artists do in a lifetime. So, if you take one thing away from this whole story, let it be this. Gershwin's real genius wasn't just his talent, it was his bravery. He showed us that the most exciting, the most creative, the most amazing new things happen when you have the courage to mix different worlds together.
He proved that the line between high art and popular fun doesn't really have to exist. So it makes you think, right? In your life, in school, in your hobbies, in your art, what are the unwritten rules that everyone just follows? And what incredible new thing could you create by being the one who's brave enough to break them?